Hey, and welcome to the On the House podcast. I'm your host, Lando Petrie. We've got a really fun episode here for you today. We have a special guest, Jen Butcher. She's a producing branch manager. She's going to go through all things social media with us, kind of talk about how she really dominates that side of the industry. Jen, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. Thank you for having me. This is going to be great.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. So I've had the pleasure of knowing you for a while now, and you definitely are kind of a pioneer in the social media industry. But before we jump into that, every episode I have a different hat on. So since you're the first guest on episode number 2, I'm going to challenge you to see if you can guess what team this hat belongs to.
Okay. So first you should know that my husband loves all sports. My son loves all sports. So he probably is going to see this and disown me. I have no idea.
Okay,
I don't
so
know.
I will give you this one because it's an incredibly hard one to guess because it's a llama. And
Okay.
a llama actually belongs to a team called the Hickory Crawdads out of North Carolina, which makes zero sense whatsoever. But apparently, on their Latin American month, they do an alternate mascot for the llamas from Peru. And so this is their llama hat that they wear 1 month during summer for a minor league affiliate of the Texas Rangers. So I will
And
give
that's
you.
the one you chose to give me.
Yes. Well, it was the only one that matched the
Thanks.
shirt. I had to color coordinate, right? I was like, oh, I got
Oh,
this nice thing. It's got to look good. If I had a purple hat on, it look a little weird. But yeah, so I'll give you a little break on that one. Is a rather hard team to guess. I actually had to remind myself of what it was by Googling it today before I put it back on. So give you a free pass
perfect.
on that one. So Jen, how long have you been in, a loan officer in the industry?
I'll be celebrating 21 years in December.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Now, I can assume that I've been in it for 17 years. A lot of things have changed since we started to where we are now, right? From how we get our information, how we share information, and most importantly, how we market ourselves, right? There's not as many days of going and bringing donuts and dropping things off and all those things. While the personal touch is still there, I think social media has really kind of stepped in and kind of been a way that we can really brand ourselves. And that's something that I know that you're very passionate about.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure.
So with this change and everything, like since you have a pretty robust following, right? You really put out some really good content, some really awesome things. And I know that that's expanded your business. Kind of talk to me like what made you decide, hey, this is going to be an avenue that I've got to dominate?
Yeah, I would say kind of toward the middle to or the beginning of middle of last year, 2022, as the market started to shift, interest rates were going up. I found myself, as I'm sure you did, just having the same conversation over and over with clients and referral partners about the market and where things are going. And at that point, I was like, if I had 100 of me, this would be great because I could really share this message because there was so much false information going on that people were being fed by the media and news and all of that type of thing that it was just it got under my skin and I wanted to shout from the rooftop what's really happening in the facts that people needed to know. And that's what kind of triggered me to say, you know what, I actually can leverage myself and put this on video and put it on social media and try to spread the word that way. I can reach so many more people. People can be seeing my message while I'm sleeping, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what sparked me to do it. And then I found that I really enjoyed creating the content. So it kind of rolled from there.
Yeah, there was a lot of fear, right? There we were combating a lot of false information that had a lot of people scared. And I think, for a lot of us too, for the first time, you're like thinking, okay, how do I change the message, right? Because I've gone against
Right.
negative things, right? Rates have raised before in my career. I've had times where people think there's no inventory. Things have been tough. Maybe not where we're at right now, but the messaging and the way that we used to be able to do it wasn't necessarily reaching the same group. And I think too that, from where I started to where I am now, there's a much bigger demographic in who my clients are, right? Who a lot of the people that I'm reaching,
Oh,
the
for sure.
main demographic that's buying a house, it's a little different than where it was in 2007, right? It's a little bit
Right.
different in the way they communicate's different. So I think that's perfect. So okay, with you saying, about the middle of last year, you were trying to combat a lot of this
Mhm.
information and you wanted to get the message out there. And I think you said one key point, right? People can see you and hear you while you're sleeping, right? It's 24/7
Mhm.
availability without you being available. I think
Right.
that's a massive benefit you get from having social media. So what did you do to get started? How did you take that dive to really say, okay, I'm going to do this, but now let me implement it?
Yeah. For me, I had to make a commitment. And I mean, it was just to myself. I made a commitment that I am going to put out if I'm going to implement this into my schedule, I need to be consistent. And so I said I'm going to put out 3 videos every single week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. for 1 year to see what happens. And that meant that there were several, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. My Saturday mornings are precious to sleep in. And I can tell you there have been at least a handful of Saturdays that I have gotten up at 4:30 in the morning because I didn't get my videos done and I had to record them on a Saturday. So that's how committed to it I was. And now it's been almost a year. That was in October I started. So this month actually we're celebrating a year, and I have been consistent. So I did it.
Well, I mean, that's pretty hell of consistent. Waking up at 4:30 in the morning to do anything is quite the commitment, right? So trust me, ooh, man, that's an early wake up call. So I would assume one of the things you did was made the calendar time block, right? Put things out there, ideas, and then kind of just stuck to it, right? I think time blocking in our industry is amazing anyway, but I think it's only amazing if someone does what you did, where it's, if I put it on the calendar, I'm going to stick to it. During this time, I'm devoted to doing this task and it's going to have my full attention. And then I'm going to move on, which I think allows you to get you stay organized, right? You can be focused on what you need to focus. And I think when you're focused on the task at hand, you complete the task at a better clip, a little quicker, a little easier, and it's a little cleaner, right? So when you did that, you said Monday, Wednesday, Friday was your kind of thing, right? You got up and did that. So was it just at 4:30 in the morning, you're ready to go? Or did you find certain times during the day that were a little easier for you to, hey, this is my time to do this? Or was it just first thing in the morning, out of bed, we're ready to rock and roll?
Yeah, no, there's like a whole get up, get ready thing over here. No, we can't just jump up and get in front of the camera. So I actually batch recorded. So on Monday, you use different parts of your brain to write content and film content. So on Mondays, I would make sure I had my scripts written. And then Wednesdays for a long time, except when I got busy and did it on Saturday mornings. Wednesdays, I would have an hour, well, at first it was a few hours time block to record those few videos. And then right out the gate, I think to get started, a big part for me was you need to make it as simple as possible. So I had to have my, like, behind me, my light, my camera, my tripod is set up, like everything is ready. So all I literally have to do is charge my camera, plug it in, and start to record. That was a really big part. Some people get fancy and they're walking around different buildings and they're at different places. And now I'm getting into trying to change up my location a little bit. But at first, to start, try to make it as simple as possible so that it's as easy. If it's easier, then you're willing to do it. So, but Mondays I would write, and then Wednesdays I would film.
Okay. So along the line with keeping it easy, when you first started, what were maybe some of the topics that you picked? Like, hey, something I know like the back of my hand, or were there things like that you said, I'm going to focus on these few things because I'm comfortable with it, and then you start expanding on your ideas from there?
Yeah, so at first, a lot of it was around the content of what was going on with higher interest rates, housing crash, bubble that everybody was talking about. And then I would always keep a notepad on my desk. And so every question a client or a real estate partner would ask me, I would get off the phone and I would write it down and say, that's a piece of content. So that's where actually a lot of my first content came from. And also the conversations that I was finding myself having consistently over and over again. So the typical, like, first steps to buying a home, the major mistakes that are made during the home buying process, how to qualify for a loan, those types of things were always great topics to start with.
So that's fantastic, because that's kind of like one of the next questions I had was kind of like, how do you identify topics? And I tell people all the time, we've got 2 of these and 1 of these. If we use these twice as much, half the time we're going to find a lot of good stuff that we can use. The other thing I tell people too is right, I would encourage anyone out there, watch what your other peers are doing, right? I mean, some of the best things I've ever learned in this industry, I have flat stolen from people who knew how to do it better than me. Like, damn, that sounds really smart. I'm going to make sure I say it just like that going forward. Right. So I think there's a lot of times, are there any individuals out there or any other people that you kind of say, hey, I really love the job of the content they do, that you kind of get an inspiration from, or anyone that you may follow that would also be beneficial for us to look at, that may, give us some additional ideas outside of some of maybe the ideas we have ourselves?
Yeah. So Neil Dingra has a really great social media group, as does Justin Brown. I follow those guys a lot. They have a lot of great content. Google is it's so a trick that I learned in Google is you type in a content idea, right? Anything. And then what you actually want to do is you want to scroll down, and it's going to tell you what other people are asking around that topic, right? So you look at the other questions, and sometimes you can type in one content idea and get like 10 more that dive a little bit deeper into that general topic. So Google is a great resource. And then since I've started, there's always Chat GPT.
Yeah,
That's a great resource as well.
it's a fantastic. That's half of the bios I do for this. They can come from
Yeah.
Chat GPT or other AI
Yeah,
that give you fantastic ideas.
for
So
sure.
so is when you're making the content and you're doing these things, like, is there a time frame do you try to stick within? Like, do you have any ground rules you kind of say, like, hey, if I'm going to do this, this is kind of what it needs to be? And does that maybe differ if you're putting something on different formats from, Instagram to your LinkedIn to Facebook or something like that? Are there different guidelines you may follow for those things?
Yeah, this is what I encourage people to do, because I'm gonna be really honest. My first videos, like the first time I sat down to batch record, it literally took me all day to do 3 videos. Last week I filmed 16 videos in 45 minutes. So it's not going to be perfect. You're going to hate it. You're going to look ugly. You're going to sound stupid. You're like, you just have to know that like the first ones are not going to be great. The important thing is to like keep your eye in the distance and know I'm in this for I knew I was doing this for a year. So all I would do is I would record, I would put my information out, and then I would look back and learn something from that batch. What did I learn? My lighting, my sound, what can I change to make my next batch better? And then I would make that adjustment. And literally every week, I just make tiny little tweaks to like where my content is today. And next month and a year from now, I'm hoping and guessing that my quality is even going to be better, right? But you can't wait to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect without the trial and errors. You just have to start. And from a time frame standpoint, yes, the time block, say I have a couple hours. I've definitely learned some awesome tricks along the way that have sped up that, we've all like tried to record a video from memory and then you mess up 3/4 of the way and you think you have to start all the way over from the beginning. And that's how I was doing it at first. So I've learned some tips and tricks that can speed up the process and help you get through it faster. And the type of by platform, like I'm pretty much right now post to Instagram. From there, I post Facebook. So I've specialized in short form content and I'm now just starting to expand my skill set to do some longer form content for YouTube that can then be kind of cut up and used as micro content other places.
Yeah, I think that's there's a couple of things from there that I think are huge takeaways, right? Like you said, you got to stay determined, right? You got to walk before you can run. It's like anything, you got to hone your craft.
Yes.
And I mean, it's the same way in this industry. I mean, when I came out of here, when I first got into it, I couldn't spell mortgage, let alone know how to write a mortgage. It was awful, right? But you learn, you feel things out, you ask questions, you continue to dive in and you keep putting the time in. And then it starts to become something that you're very comfortable with. You can expand and take the next step. I think it's the same with this, right? Like it's diving into these things. You become much more comfortable every time you do one, you get better, but you can also look back at the back then and be like, oh man, all right, well, I came a long way, but it's successful. But you've got to find the way to do it. And I think that's interesting, right? I think there's a lot of benefit to short, quick hitting topics, right? They can spark it, right? All you have to do is get someone to ask a question. Right? If they can ask a question, if they reach out, they see you, that's all you're trying to accomplish. I don't need to teach you everything right now. I just need to spark your attention enough to have you reach out, to have you make a call, to have seen my face before. And then I'm accomplishing more than I know what that's actually worth. So I think that's interesting. I think the YouTube stuff will be fun because I think there's some cool things that people can definitely do on there with other, elaborating a little bit more, bringing in guests, things like that. I think it definitely opens up those things. So, all right, well, let's talk about the most important thing, right? You said you've been doing this for a year. What are the rewards, the benefits you're getting? Like what tangible results have you seen that these have yielded for you? Because I think that's what everyone wants right now, right? We know things are tough. The market's we all know where it's at, but what rewards has this yielded you?
Yeah, this is awesome because it more rewards than I would have expected, right? I think we all go into it like I'm passionate. I absolutely love educating people. So just putting the content out there fills my bucket. But I think you have to be in it for the long term, right? You're not going to put out one video and necessarily get someone calling you to do a mortgage on a house. But what it does is it leverages yourself and it puts you out there doing something that most likely your competition is not doing. So it's been a year. I now get fairly regular people clients reaching out to me, asking me questions about mortgages or applying or that type of thing. I'm not going to lie, that took close to a year, right? I've had some stragglers, but that took close to a year. But the other really big benefits is, first of all, my referral partners. My name is out there. I've met with more potential real estate partners in this year than I probably did the prior 3 years combined. I get name recognition. I brag about this. I've been recognized in public. It was a
Perfect.
realtor, but still, but it is about like your name, right? Especially in this environment where there are multiple offers. I've had people, listing agents say, "Oh, I know Jennifer Butcher. I know who she is, anyways." And because of my video content and the way that I explain things, they're like, "She knows what she's doing." I've never even met them. I don't even
Right.
know necessarily them person, but they know me because of social media, and now it gives my buyer an advantage because that listing agent can tell their seller their loan officer is solid. I've never even met them before, right? So I think that piece is really, really important as well. And then in this world of like competition, and I'm talking to someone and I know they're talking to another lender, we pitch ourselves, but I'm like, hey, just if you have any other questions, check out my Instagram. I have a lot of great information there. And more than once, people have come to me and said, yeah, I want to work with you because I just sat and watched an hour's worth of your videos. And now they know, you know, or same thing, maybe they haven't talked to me yet, but when they do, they've already watched some videos and they know, like, and trust me already. And I've never even had a conversation with them one-on-one yet, but they've watched my videos, so they feel like they know me, right? So
Uh,
I think it's multifaceted, and it kind of like a domino effect. Like, just stay long-term, just stay in the game, because once it starts to happen, it really starts to happen fast.
So, I mean, I'll call it out because I know you told me this the other day when we talked before this, but I mean, you're in the Midwest and you're talking about getting licensed in a state nowhere even remotely close to you because of someone who's reaching out to you, interested in your content and other things. And I think that's, that's massive because that's a huge sphere right now. It's one thing locally, everyone that's around you that follows you in the same industry, in the same, not necessarily town, but state or something like that. But to have your influence be halfway across the country where you're thinking of like, okay, financially, I'm going to go into a completely different market that I never would have ventured into, and now already have a
Yeah.
relationship with someone there. I mean, that's outstanding. I mean, that's all for something that costs you little to no money, right? There's a little bit of
Mhm.
startup cost. It's not incredibly expensive to get the equipment we have to do this. And then it's just about
Right.
time. It's just about
Mhm.
investing time. And I think one thing too that I think you'll agree with me too is when you make this content and you do these types of things, naturally you're getting more comfortable just simply speaking to people about these things too and overcoming some
Yeah.
objections and being quicker and more confident in your ability to educate someone. And that's not even the video. It's just that, hey, I've done this, I know how to explain it, I've seen this, I've
Mhm.
spoken about it. And you just constantly taking that next step forward and increasing your intelligence, increasing your communication skills, and you become much more comfortable. Like you said, seeing yourself on camera the first time when you record something, it's literally like, oh, this is horrible, horrible. But as someone who's, traveled the country speaking in front of large groups for the last, 15 years, the first time I was terrified. I couldn't do it. By the time I got done, I was like, I
Mhm.
don't care if there's 3 million people in here or 3 people in here. I know people are going to laugh at the jokes. I'm going to be confident in what I can deliver. And you get better at it. So then you take that next step and overall, it's just bolstering your sales skills completely. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Last thing before I let you go here is that outside of the
Okay.
great advice you can give us, if there was anything else that you could just let us know that you would do, or even talk about, you said the YouTube, if there's any other ideas that you're excited to get into in the future, like what your next steps may be.
Yeah, I'm excited to get into YouTube and start. I'm doing more and more collaborations with people, like you said, even across the country, different real estate agents in different markets, because we're in the Midwest, so and we have a lot of snowbirds that go south. So connecting with people there is kind of is a lot of fun. So, but longer term content where I can share more information with clients and referral partners, bringing in appraisers, inspectors, other agents, attorneys, you know what I mean? That type of thing, to just
Absolutely.
even bring better content, and other LOs. It's always just even great to connect with other loan officers and get their perspective on things. So I'm excited to do more of those collaborations. And then in terms of just getting started, I just do it. You don't need anything other than a cell phone, really, a decent mic and a light. I always tell people, I get so many messages about what camera are you using? And I'm like, don't go for the camera, go for the light, get a really good light. And if you don't have one, get in front of a window, right? But otherwise, I'd invest in a light before I invest in a camera, and get a good mic. That's literally all that you need to get started.
Well, that doesn't sound like too much or too terrible things to do that. I'm sure Amazon's got everything you could need for those kind of things
Yes.
right to your door. Perfect.
Yes.
Well, hey, look, I really appreciate you taking time out of your day. For anyone listening to it, look at the end. All of Jeff's or all of Jen's information will be at the end of the video. If you have any questions or anything, reach out to her. Feel free. But I really appreciate it, and we appreciate your time today.